Testing 1 2. Hello art fans and welcome back. First of all, I just want to apologise. I haven't been uploading recently. In fact, my last video was probably a few months ago. Previous to that, my last video probably about 1 to 2 years prior to my last video. And there's a reason for that. My life was sort of turned upside down in the pandemic. Pandemic come along. I know everybody uses the word pandemic as an excuse for things, but this one, it actually really affected what I do for a living. So my main business is a design agency and 90% of our customers are event organisers. And what actually happened in the pandemic, no events were taking place, equaled in such a downturn in the work that was coming our way. And to relieve the pressure a little bit, we made the decision to sell our house. But the only problem was we bought somewhere a lot further away to where the business was located. So that was problem number one. And problem number two was we bought a new build property, which equaled in the fact that I had no creative space whatsoever to create content. But fast forward 2 years from then, that's the biggest seagull on the roof. I've managed to build an amazing space in the garden, which I'm going to be calling my new studio. And yes, I managed to build the entire thing myself, from the foundations all the way through to the roof and all the interior as well. So that probably explains why I haven't been uploading content to my channel. Now, I was thinking about documenting this build, but it wouldn't really sit with my art channel. So I didn't actually film the process of me building it, but there's some photos that I can sort of show you along the way. Pretty much done everything by myself, apart from my son helped me with the roof. So in some future videos, I'll give you a tour of this space inside. But for today's project, this back wall behind me is going to be an area where I'm going to be doing actual physical paintings. And in this big jiffy bag behind me, 2 large paintings. Now these paintings are by a local artist, and I need to, for this artist, reproduce them 2 original pieces of artworks into high quality limited edition digital prints that she's going to be selling. So in order for me to photograph these original pieces of art, which I'll take you along on the journey today with, I'm going to need an area on this back wall that I can hang the paintings. Now I don't just want to hang the painting straight into a white wall. I'm going to put up a board that I can reuse that board to hang other pieces of art, also for me to paint on, and that's about it. So if you want to learn a little bit about the process of photographing original pieces of art and then turning them into limited edition prints, stick around on this video, because I think you're going to learn a few things on how to do that. And I'm under a little bit of pressure because I've got to get all this done within the next couple of days. The actual art in there is absolutely stunning, so stick around, you'll see that as well. And I'll put links in the description to this video of where you can follow this artist as well. I hope that's brought you up to speed where we are today. So let's crack on, get this board on the wall and get these paintings shot. In the new garden studio, from the ceiling on this back wall, I have a projector screen that comes down from the ceiling, and I wanted to make sure that the gap behind the projector screen doesn't interfere with the board that I'm about to put up. The day I chose to do this was a typical English day with rain clouds absolutely everywhere. It did absolutely tip it down, so I was looking for that break between the rain and, yeah, in fact, cows do not lay down when it rains. Next up was to rip down some sections of batten that I had left over from the build, and don't do what I'm doing here. I've got no protection on whatsoever. I'm just doing the squint of the eyes to stop the sawdust. So I've got some timbers ripped down to length, which you just saw me doing on table saw. So I'm going to be hanging a sheet of ply on the wall using the French cleat system. And the way that that works is you just saw me ripping down a piece of timber. Normally you put a 45-degree cut within the timber, So one side is against the wall, one side is, this side is on the art, is the board, and it slots down and sits on top of this timber. And then when this sits down on top of this piece of timber, it can't tip forward because the wall's in the way. Now initially I was just going to stick these timbers to the big piece of board, but I want to get some kind of mechanical fixing through the board into these timbers, because at the end of the day I'm putting somebody's artwork up. I guess the hardest bit about this is going to be getting these in the precise location as it is to the wall. So there's going to be lots of measuring, check it twice, cut once, is it? Measure twice, cut once. So once I had the board on the floor, I found a remote case switch is to the air conditioning unit, and it was the perfect width to create that line that I'm drawing now across the entire board. And here I'm just screwing through the board into the pieces of batten underneath. And I'm checking the measurements from the front side of the board to the first piece of batten. Next up, I grab the old drill and I drill some holes through those pieces of batten. They're the ones that are going to be mounted to the wall, as you can see me here. And I'm drilling them into the wall. I've fixed the other two pieces of batten to the back of this board, and now I'm just going to attempt to put the board on the wall, because I need to find out the location for the other two battens where I screw that onto the wall. And hopefully I've come up with a solution for that, so let's give this a try. Oh, it's really heavy. Okay, so currently that's being held up with just one French cleat, so I want to try and get the other two in there. I'm really out of breath just getting that on the wall. It's quite heavy. In order for me to find out where I need to place the next two battens on the wall, I was going to use a piece of the offcut and slide it into position up against where it needs to sit, i.e. on this French cleat. Push it to the wall, and then I'm just going to mark the underneath of that batten. So once I marked the wall, I could then go along with the spirit level, making sure that's completely, that line was straight. There's a case of putting up each piece of batten against those marked lines. So just lining up one side. And when I built this room, I put OSB before the plasterboard, which allows me to drill any screw straight into the wall without needing to plug it. So that's a real tip. I don't know whether this is just me, but does anybody else when they hang something on the wall have that split second panic when they let go of it, thinking it's going to fall down? Next up was getting some lighting set up in order to shoot the artwork that goes on the wall. These are just a couple of LED light panels that I'm setting up. This is the big reveal of the artwork. It's now time for the technical bit. In order to get a half decent image of your painting, your piece of art, there's a number of ways you can do it. You can either go and get it scanned, which costs an absolute fortune to get it scanned at a repro house, or you can get it photographed, and today we're going to be doing it as a photograph. Now this camera is an A7R III, so the resolution on it is really high resolution. I think we end up with about a 45 megapixel file, which can be blown up to a massive size. Now it all depends what size you're going to reproduce your limited edition prints at. For this artist, Louise, she always has her prints smaller than the original, and that's generally the case. You tend to go smaller than the original print that you're going to reproduce. It's the following day, it's a much brighter day, and light is your key when photographing anything. You need to control the light in the room. So fortunately today the sun is out, there is a few clouds in the sky which I keep my eye on, but you tend to want to overall have the painting evenly lit. So at the side I've got a couple of lights, and you'll notice that these aren't pointing towards the painting at all. These are just projecting light and giving off an ambient light to light this area. So what you want to really do is turn your lights on. You can have a diffuser, which is a big see-through piece of sheet material, and you can shine the light through a diffuser to diffuse that light, but this room is entirely white, so I'm using the whiteness of the walls and the ceiling to bounce that light onto the painting. So what I tend to do to start with is I look at the painting and I try and look at my hands and see if they're evenly lit from left to right, top to bottom. So it's a little bit darker this side, and I would say my hand is a little bit darker towards the bottom. So I'm just going to lower these lights ever so slightly. And I'm just going to bring this one a fraction closer. That looks probably a little bit too bright, so just angle it away as well slightly. Looks pretty good. Also as well, make sure your lights are set at the same light temperature. Next little tip, always shoot your image on a tripod. Never hand hold your camera to shoot your piece of art. There's a reason for that. We're going to do a bit more of a longer exposure on the camera, which basically means that the shutter is open for longer, and if you're holding it, you'll tend to sort of move slightly. So that's the reason why we're going to shoot on a tripod, and we're going to set a timer up on the tripod as well. So we'll click the camera shutter, walk away, it will take a few shots, then we'll walk back, and we know that that is completely not moved. Now another little tip is I tend to move the camera and the tripod to the painting, and what we're aiming to do to start with is roughly get that lens central to the painting in terms of height, which I've set this up already, so that's pretty much perfect. I'm shooting with a 50mm prime lens as well. That's another tip. If you can get a prime lens, mainly 50mm is absolutely ideal. That will give you your sharpest image as well. So yeah, once you've got that lined up, it's then a case of bringing the camera back, and I tend to get it set up so it's just in frame, because we want to use the whole of the camera sensor in terms of picking up the entire image. I'll quickly show you what I mean in terms of framing. That is the type of frame that I've got. Let's just take a moment as well to appreciate this artist's piece of work. Absolutely stunning. I think she just got through to as a finalist in the Women in Art. She was down in London recently showcasing her art for that award. There's two pieces of art I've got to shoot today. This is the first one. I'm going to shoot the other one in a second. So let's stick you back on the tripod. I'm shooting at f11, sort of the lower the f-stop, it will be more blurry around the edges. So you want to sort of dial that f-stop up as much as possible. You want to also reduce your ISO to the lowest setting that you can on your camera, because ISO, it adds like a digital grain into the photo. So the lower that is, the better. And then to control the aperture, we're going to adjust the shutter speed. So I'm running at 0.6 of a second. I might actually alter that ever so slightly. Another little tip as well, you want to manually focus, and you also want to set your lighting to be consistent. I've just got this on daylight, and what we're going to do is I'm going to use the viewfinder to manually focus in on the piece of art. I want to make sure that everything is pin sharp in this painting. Once you're happy, I've got an interval of 4 seconds on my timer, which basically means it will take a photo, wait 4 seconds, take another photo with a 0.8 of a second exposure, which so that will take the photo within 0.8 of a second, letting in as much light as possible. So we're going to take a photo. As I say, the first one you never use. Walk away from the camera. If your floor bounces, just keep completely still at this stage. So the thing to keep in mind there is never to use the first few and never to use the last two. Use sort of one in the middle, because you know that tripod's going to be completely still. Right, I'm going to shoot the other painting and then we're going to take these files and get them onto the computer. I just want to quickly pick the camera up and show you the detail in this painting, because the photorealism on it is absolutely stunning. Yeah, that's the image at the back of the camera. But the shadows on this tree running down the bottom across the footpath, absolutely brilliant. The detail is exquisite. It's every little brush stroke on each blade of grass is just incredible. That's the reflection of the light, but you obviously don't see that when I was shooting it. I can see why she got through to the finals in Women in Art in London. It's yeah, incredible. Right, I'm going to download these images to the camera and we're going to start reproducing the prints. I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but I've imported the images into Lightroom, and because I already shot some photos for this artist previously, I was able to go through and get the same colour settings as to what I shot before. So here I'm just adjusting the lighting, just making sure everything is pin sharp. I'm removing any dust blemishes as well, if there's any dust that's actually on the painting, or that could be on the lens itself. So the printer I use is a SureColor SCP-900, that's by Epson. So the detail that you get from this printer is absolutely brilliant. I think it's down to the Ultra Chrome Pro inks that come with this printer. It's also got a violet ink as well, which I believe extends the colour gamut on this printer to make it a real professional photo colour printer. It's now been a few days and those proofs have gone back to the original artist, and we've gone backwards and forwards with just tweaking them ever so slightly. I just wanted to point out at this stage, so we're ready to run with the final prints, and we're going to be printing them out on some media paper, which is by Photo Speed. They do a selection of papers. On this particular job, we're going to run this on, it's called natural soft textured paper. It's like a high-end cotton type card. A good thing about Photo Speed paper is they supply a colour profiling system for their papers. What that means is you can run your print through a profile to the printer and the colour should come out as per what you expect onto their papers. They also sell some test packs, so I'll put a link in the description down below to their website. So we're going to get running with those limited edition prints. We're going to get them printed out, trimmed up, and we're going to get them delivered to the customer. Okay, here's one of the final prints that's come off the printer. She's going to have a number of these limited edition prints, but the end result is fantastic. The colour's brilliant. I've just got to trim these out. We've discussed sort of the border thickness that she wants on each print. So there you have it. I hope you've learned something from this video in terms of the process of producing those limited edition prints from the original artwork on the wall through to them being printed out on the printer. Also as well, check out in the description below that artist that I was doing these prints for, and also check out some of that paper from the description below. As I say, I really hope you like this video, so please subscribe, give this one a thumbs up if you can, and yeah, stick around because there's going to be some more art video to come.